Hello everyone, it's Ange de Lumière here today. I'm coming to talk to you for High Vibe Monday about the fear of missing out. But before I do, I'd like to introduce myself briefly. I'm a spiritual lawyer and I also call myself an intuitive business strategist. What I do is I combine more than 15 years of experience as a corporate lawyer, 10 years as a business owner with my intuition, which I've trained to the highest level through various modalities. And I'm passionate about going back into business to help people function at a higher level by using their intuition to make business decisions and to connect to the wisdom of their business. So this show happens every Monday at 7 o'clock UK time on my page. It's then posted on YouTube and it will soon be in a podcast. Because I feel that it's called High Vibe Monday, and I feel that there's nobody should feel miserable on a Monday morning. So this is why I'm bringing the high vibe into the Monday. So today we're going to talk about the fear of missing out. Feel free to ask questions if you join me in the chat box. Don't make them too long, because if they're too long I can't read all of them, but I'd love to interact with you. So I come here to tell you about the fear of missing out, because this is something that's very common in business, especially when you start out. You feel you're not doing enough, you feel that you're not enough, so you kind of chase all the shiny objects that come your way, and this is actually not very good for you. And it also, this fear of missing out somehow can also push away your clients. So why do we have this fear of missing out? I suppose it starts with the it starts in school, when we see people making friends. There's these groups that we were excluded from, or there's an opportunity to do a class and there's only so many people and we're not taken in. All that sort of thing that makes us feel that there's not enough for everyone. And I think this is an underlying feeling in business that's quite common, that we feel there's so much competition and how can we make our space, and hi Yael, and this can really cripple us, because for example, suppose there was another person who called themselves a spiritual lawyer who did intuitive business strategy like me. I would feel, oh, she's doing it, I'm not doing it. But this is not how the universe works anyway. I initially, when I left the corporate world as a lawyer, trained as a clinical hypnotherapist. And there's tons of clinical hypnotherapists. But what our teachers told us was that the more we explained to people who weren't familiar with what clinical hypnotherapy is, and the more we made it more mainstream, we helped the collective of clinical hypnotherapists, so everybody won. It was a win-win. And I loved how my teacher taught us that, because from my own perspective, and I don't know how I came to this belief, and maybe I'll start to unpick it as we speak. I believed that if there was someone else doing the same thing as me, then that was it. There was no space for the both of us. I was raised in a very, very competitive environment. Now, I'm not entirely sure it came from my parents. It came probably just from the constant flow of listening to other people. In truth, when I did my degree as a lawyer, it was extremely competitive. We were a nucleus of students that were chosen to receive prestigious bursary to go abroad to study in England, because I'm French, so I studied in Paris for most of my student life, and then I spent a gap year in England. And there was only so many of us. I think it comes from this concept of elite, and that only the best, or whatever, people who have the chance to do this and that are the chosen ones, or whatever it is. And also we are bombarded by messages of fear. So I made a little list of the most common fears that are constantly being fed. And I was having this conversation actually with my husband this weekend. And I was saying, if you feed the dragon, it grows. And fear is a dragon that if you feed it, will grow. And there's no limit to it. Then it can tip into anxiety. It can make you feel even ill from fear. It's a thing. So we live in a world of fear. We have the fear of losing our jobs, the fear of becoming ill, the fear of being burglared or attacked, fear of not being loved. We have the fear of debt, fear of losing our home, whatever it is. And these fears kind of compound. It's an energy. I talk about energy quite a bit. Fear is an energy. And it's very sticky. That means once it starts to lodge itself in you, there's a snowball effect. This is also what happens in the brain. In clinical hypnotherapy, we talk a lot about the reptile brain. Now, it's the same thing. If you feed the reptile brain, the reptile brain will become stronger and stronger. And it's almost like you will sucked into that energy center, and every single thought of yours will come from this fear center. So let me give you a little example of how it works. You will start to be afraid, maybe that, suppose that you were starting a new business, that you're afraid that you're not going to have any clients. Then constantly, if you miss an opportunity to post in the group, for example, an offer, say, oh, it's never going to work, I missed that opportunity. You will be spending more and more time on social media trying to promote your work, and you will feel that it's never enough, because if you stop, somebody else might be posting and you will not be posting, and you'll miss an opportunity. Now, this can really make us anxious to a point where we actually push away clients. So it's very important that we tackle this fear of missing out so that we feel serene, because it's only by feeling serene that we will attract the right people. Does that make sense? So what does fear of missing out make us do? And also what I want to explain is that fear actually makes you make some really stupid decisions, okay? I'm sorry about the English, that wasn't very elaborate, but when you're in fear, you don't actually think straight. So you will tend to make brash decisions, or decisions that you will regret later. So what does that look like in business? It makes us do yet another training, yet another workshop, or buy yet another shiny object. It makes us work long hours. Because we somehow feel that the more time we spend in our business, the more money we're going to make. It's the old paradigm of licking time and money, but it's not how it works. It makes us underprice ourselves. So because we think that if we charge too much, then people will not going to sign up. They're not going to work with us because somebody else will offer the same thing for a cheaper price. And this happens to me all the time. But actually, I now know my value. It's taken me a while, but I know that I can effect such transformations in the lives of my clients that I'm absolutely worth the money that I charge. But it wasn't always this way. I started off charging £40 an hour, and even then some people thought it was too expensive. So it's not... I think you need to first become aware of your own value, and then everything else will fall into place. It can make you grab freebies like there's no tomorrow, but actually you're worth investing in your business. When you invest in your business from a place of trust, amazing things can happen. And I'm going to tell you a little bit a story about what happened to me almost a year ago to the day. And also, it makes you believe in competition, which is an illusion, because even though there might be 100 clinical hypnotherapists, there isn't in your patch. But now we're online, so we're supposedly competing with thousands and thousands and thousands of clinical hypnotherapists if we are a clinical hypnotherapist. Yes, but there's only one of you. And the way that you're going to deliver clinical hypnotherapy to your clients will be totally different to the way someone else might. You come in with your culture, you come in with your personality, you come in with your vibe, you come in with everything that makes you you, your experience, your flavor, your language, your culture, everything. You come in with your gender if that's something that's important, or your sensitivity to gender issues. You come in, there's so much that makes you. For me, for example, I no longer practice as a clinical hypnotherapist, but I'm an author as well, and that's something that attracts a lot of people because I can coach them into writing their books within their business. I've written a very good non-fiction book about slimming without dieting. That's not what it's called, that would be super boring. Sign me up an agent so I can write a book to a level of professionalism that is, that can really impress people who want to work with you, which is super important because it's not enough just to write a book. You want to write a book that people will say, oh, I want to work with that person. This book is amazing. I love what she has to offer. So here we are. We need to be aware that we live in a world riddled with fear, even though our actual level of risk and danger is much lower than it was, say, 100 years ago. But the problem that happens in our modern day culture is the media, the films, the videos, social media, whatever it is. We are constantly bombarded by stories, and stories that can carry an incredible amount of fear, which then will suck us into the center in our brain and make us believe things that are rather stupid. Sorry for saying that, but it's true. Also, fear is a vibration, so it will, even if you don't talk about your fears, it will push people away from you. So our beliefs shape our reality, and it's really important to understand that because 90% of the way we act is based on our unconscious beliefs. So if you're constantly feeling in the fear, you're not actually in control. You're losing control of how you react and how you respond and the way that you present yourself to the world. And it's very important to understand how that works and how to snap out of it. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to tell you that hopefully will help you with this fear if you're suffering from it, as I was. First of all, from a metaphysical point of view, you cannot miss an opportunity. That means that if something presents itself to you and you don't take this opportunity, it will present itself to you again and again and again if it was meant to be. So your life is a little bit like you driving a car. You're in the driver's seat and the car is your life, and you as the driver make a certain number of decisions to go from A to B, and you have a sat-nav in your car, which is your intuition, and this sat-nav is actually the universe showing you where to go, and it will always course correct. So that means that if you miss a turn to the road, the first road on your right that would have taken you to your destination, there's always a way to go back to that road. It could be that you take the next road down and then you make another turn right, or it could be that there's going to be an opportunity for you to do a U-turn and then come back, and you will learn along the way anyway. So opportunities, if you keep only one thing from this High Vibe Monday episode today, is that the universe will always present you opportunities again and again and again. And sometimes the universe is a bit naughty. It presents to you opportunities as a test. Now, I don't want you to think that a test is like, oh my God, if I don't pass the test, that's it, I've failed. It's not like school. It's not the world. The universe doesn't work the way humans do. What happens is tests are the way that the universe trusts us. Okay, so the universe will present an opportunity, and it's if you say no, it's not for me, then tune in and try and find out why you're thinking this way and whether this decision comes from a place of peace or from a place of fear. Does that make sense? And so this opportunity that's given to you might not be necessarily for you to take it It's for you to reflect on where you are. It's to reveal something about you. It's to help you become more aware. We want to be aware of where we're at and of the work that we might still have to do. So suppose tomorrow I was offered an opportunity. Let's say I had a publishing deal with Hay House, and that involved me having to do a lot of traveling, a lot of workshops, a lot of public speaking. I might actually say, no, this is not for me. This is too scary. Although I thought it was my dream, I'm not interested. I can't do this. I really can't. Well, what I can do, analyzing what just happened, is go within and find out, is it true? Or is it just my fear of success? Because there's lots of fears pile up, they kind of cluster. And the presenting fear is rarely the base fear, the core fear. So you want to peel your fears, sorry, like an onion. So you might think that, okay, I have a fear of public speaking. I don't think I do actually, but this is the example. And underneath that, actually, it might be a fear that people are not going to love me. I'm okay talking, but if no one listens, or if people start to criticize me, that's the problem I have. So it's actually a fear of being loved or not being loved. Underneath that, there might be a fear of success, because you're surrounded by people who maybe struggle, and you have a lot of compassion for them, and you're all in this thing. Maybe you have a couple of friends who are in the same situation as you, who's trying to make things happen, and and you're all rooting for each other. So what if you succeeded? You might actually lose your tribe. This is another fear. Because ancestrally, a long time ago, if we didn't belong to a tribe and we branched out, that would mean death, because we would no longer have the support of our peers. So I just want you to become aware of all this, and how actually the fear of missing out, you should just laugh in the face of fear. Always laugh in the face of fear, because fear doesn't have any sense of humor at all. And this is one thing that we were talking about with my husband again. I love the bit in Harry Potter when he's asked to stand in front of that mirror. Oh no, it's a wardrobe, and I can't remember what the creature is called, but it morphs into your worst fear, and his becomes Snape, the teacher that's always picking holes in him. And the way that he transmutes his fear of Snape is to imagine that Snape is wearing a dress and has I think that's what it is, but I might get it wrong because I've not watched it in so long, that he has roller skates on, and then he falls over because he can't cope with them, or something like that. So if you have any chance of tapping into that sense of humor, when this will immediately take you out of your amygdala and your fear center. Laughter does that. It raises your vibration instantly. So try and find something funny about your fear. Maybe just shout ridiculous, like they do in Harry Potter. They use a wand. Imagine that this is a true, I love that she uses that in her book, because it is true. If you see something ridiculous in the fear or the situation that presents yourself, you sort of dissolve the whole drama. It becomes a non-issue anymore. So I hope you found this episode of High Vibe Monday helpful. I'd love to have your questions about this. I could continue to talk a little bit about fear and how to get out of it. There are a certain number of things that you can do to raise your vibrations when you're in fear. One of them is tapping. So I'm going to show you, and for those of you who are going to listen, I will try to explain what I'm doing as much as I can without you having the visual. So EFT is called the emotional, I call it the emotional acupuncture. And I think I'm not the only one to see it that way. And what it does is that it calms the nervous system through the tapping of certain points, and you only need to focus on your head, your shoulders, and your hands. So the first tapping point that you have is at the top of your head. You can use your whole hand, and you gently tap where you would probably place a crown on your head, okay? That's the first tapping point. The second tapping point is on the inside of your eyebrow, and you can do either side, and you can even do both sides at the same time. The third one is on the side of your eye where there's that little dip, because the skull is shaped a little bit that way. That should be the fourth one, is just underneath your eye, right in the middle, on your cheekbone. The next one is going to be under your nose, right in between your nose and your lips. The next one is on your chin, right in the middle. Then there's one on underneath your collarbone where it's painful. So if you move a little bit your fingers until you find a pain point, that's where you should be tapping. And then I'm going to skip the one under the arm and go straight to the one here on the wrist, on the inside of your wrist, underneath your palm. If you tap with 2 fingers there, flat, you actually tap on quite a few meridians that are very good to calm the nervous system. So how do you start the tapping session? You want to find one of your core fears. So let's make one up for today. Let's say I have a fear that clients don't want to work with me. So I'm going to say, once I tap on the karate chop, which is on the side of my hand, the outside of my hand where my, what's it called, auricular lines up, you tap on this side, and whilst you're saying the starting, the beginning, the start of your statement. So for me, it would be even though, you should always start with even though, then you have the statement, and then you say, I completely love and accept myself, or you can find different wording for this. But the idea is that you're aligning your energy so that you no longer have that conflict about wanting something and at the same time believing that you cannot have it. Does that make sense? So I want clients, but I'm afraid clients won't want to work with me. And as long as this energy is not aligned in me, this cannot happen, or it cannot happen easily. It's going to be an effort because I have to get over my own resistance to getting clients because I have this belief that they don't want to work with me. Does that make sense? So you would tap on the karate chop on the side of your hand, and you would say, even though I don't think anyone wants to work with me, I still love and accept myself. Okay? Even though, and you do this 3 times, even though I don't think clients want to work with me, I still completely love and accept myself. Even though I don't think clients want to work with me, I completely love and accept myself. Right? And then you're going to tap on the top of your head, and you're going to go down the way I've done. You can watch the replay, and then you can practice without saying anything until it becomes a bit more familiar. And then you practice with whatever words you want to say. So let's say that you had this belief that nobody wants to work with you. You're not an interesting person. There's Jane down the road who does the same thing as you, and she's much more interesting. So why would anyone want to work with you? So I don't think anyone wants to work with me. So I'm tapping on the top of my head. This is a problem for me. So I continue tapping on my eyebrow, and then I tap. And you can also do it without actually saying any words, because as long as you have focused on this problem to start with, once you start tapping, it's going to calm your nervous system. So you go down from the top of your head, your eyebrow, the side of your eye, under your nose, chin, collarbone, and then you do it on your wrist. Okay, this is enough to actually help you to step away from that reptile brain and help you to calm down. But it also does this amazing thing, is that it aligns your energy. So you no longer have a conflicting, and there's nothing worse in terms of waste of energy than having a conflict within yourself. Because as I said earlier, you're going to want something, and at the same time you don't believe it can happen, or you don't believe that there's a resistance for you to get it because you think something bad's going to happen if you do. And this results in things being really, really difficult. If I can give you one message of hope in this recording today, in this episode, is that things do not have to be difficult. They are difficult when we pursue something that actually is in conflict with our core beliefs. And there's loads of way to work on this. I've just given you one method today in this episode. And I know a lot of people talk about EFT, but it's not enough to talk about EFT. You need to actually do it. Just do it. Take it as an experiment. You don't even have to believe in the power of EFT to do it. All you need to do is to have an open mind and to experiment. I can tell you the first time I had an EFT session, I nearly ran out of the lady's house, because at the time it was an old-fashioned type of EFT where you had to sing happy birthday in the middle of all that tapping session. And it really felt weird. It was so weird. I was still in the corporate world. I still had my job as a lawyer. And I went there because I wanted some help with some issues I had. But at the same time, I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. I don't want to be here. But I stayed because I'd paid for my session. So I thought I might as well do this. And when I left her office, when I left her house, because she worked from home, I felt so much better. At that time, I was actually going through a case of constructive dismissal, which means that my employer was trying to push me out the door without paying me the redundancy package that they owed me. And it was extremely stressful. And I was full of fears. Of course, I was full of fear of losing my job, because I was losing my job. And I was losing my job in the worst possible circumstances, because my employer didn't want to give me the little bit of pot of money that could have helped me through the next phase of finding another job. So I was completely stuck in fear. And when I left her house, I felt different. I'm not saying that all the problems disappeared, but the way I felt about it was completely different. And that's enabled me to actually make so much more intelligent decisions about the next step, rather than acting out, because this is what you do when you act from fear. It's almost like your IQ drops to a really low level. You're not able to see things clearly, and so that's when you can make some pretty horrible mistakes. I hope this episode was helpful. Also, I wanted to tell you before I finished about this time last year, how I made a decision that should have literally taken me into a fear mode, and how it felt completely different. So I had been working in group environments and challenges and stuff with a psychic coach that I greatly admired. And she was offering her first round in her Psychic Business Academy. That was quite a big investment for me, especially because I didn't have the money. But I absolutely knew in my bones that this was the right step for me in my business. And so I managed to calm myself down about my fears of having to use a credit card, which is something that is very unusual for me. And what happened is that literally the second I made the first payment, it was 6 payments to be made monthly, I had an incredible sign from my guides to show me that this was the right thing to do. Now, I need to finish this episode to let you know that you have to trust first, and then only will you get the comfort from the universe. Because if it was the other way round, it would take away your power. Do you understand what I mean? If you were constantly being told, do this, and yes, I can give you the guarantees that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, then you would be constantly almost like treated like a child, like you're always asking for someone to do things for you and to be there for you and to want things for you almost. But that's not how the universe works. The universe wants you to be clear about what you want. And once you are, and you make those decisions bravely and courageously, and you step up and you show up, then the universe will meet you halfway. So it's very important, even if you were going to make the same decision, it's important to make it from faith rather than fear, because even that will have different consequences, because you won't have made it from the same kind of energy, if that makes any sense. So I want to thank you, all of you, for listening to this episode. If you have any questions and you're on my Facebook page, you can ask questions underneath this video. If you're watching it on YouTube or maybe listening to it on the podcast, you can always contact me through my page. I can help you thrive, and or just come on the page and find this video. All my videos are on the pinned posts at the top of this page with all the different episodes. Thank you very much. I'm wishing you a wonderful week and a week without this nagging fear. Bye everyone.